Well, again, my name's Gabe Zollner. I'd really like some Boeing engineers or some Boeing pilots to get involved in this discussion. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I mentioned in a couple of videos that I posted on 9/11, specifically the Pentagon. And what we're told is that a 767 hit the Pentagon at 500 miles an hour. And anyone that knows anything about Boeing 767s, or any airplane for that matter, knows that a large fixed aircraft cannot travel at that speed close to the ground. And the reason that is that the air is too dense. And in order for the aircraft to go at 500 miles an hour, it would need 3 times the horsepower that a 767 has. But I also want to talk about something that I mentioned in my other videos, and that's ground effect. Now, I'm going to attach the link so you'll be able to see it for yourself, but I'm going to provide you what Wikipedia speaks about with respect to ground effect. In fixed wing aircraft, ground effect is the increased lift, in parentheses force, and decreased aerodynamic drag that an aircraft's wing generates when they are close to a fixed surface. When landing, ground effect can give the pilot the feeling that the aircraft is floating. When taking off, ground effect may temporarily reduce the stall speed. The pilot can then fly level just above the runway while the aircraft accelerates in ground effect until a safe climb speed is reached. These are the principles of ground effect. When an aircraft flies at the ground level, approximately at or below the length of the aircraft's wing span. Now, just so you know, the wingspan of a 767 is 180 feet. So what that means is that when that airplane is 180 feet off the ground, it's riding on compressed air, which is being compressed beneath the wings. The airplane cannot land until the airplane bleeds off airspeed. That's why when you're flying on a commercial transport plane, you'll notice just before it touches down, the aircraft feels incredibly smooth because it is riding on compressed air. Now, since ground effect begins with the wingtips being tipped from ground up, in the case of a 767, that's 180 feet. What that means is that airplane could not have hit the Pentagon, which has a maximum height of 77 feet. It's virtually impossible. The airplane would have floated right over the building. Now, what it also goes on to say, this is caused primarily by the ground interrupting the wingtip vortices and downwash behind the wing. When a wing is flown very close to the ground, wingtip vortices are unable to form effectively due to the obstruction of the ground. The result is lower induced drag, which increases the speed and lift of the aircraft. A wing generates lift by deflecting the oncoming air mass, relative wind, downward. The deflected or turned flow of air creates a resilient force on the wing in the opposite direction, Newton's third law. The resultant force is identified as lift. Flying close to the surface increases air pressure on the lower wing surface, nicknamed the ram or cushion effect, and thereby improves the aircraft lift-to-drag ratio. The lower near the wing is with regards to the ground, the more pronounced the ground effect becomes. While in ground effect, the wing requires a lower angle of attack to produce the same amount of lift. If the angle of attack and velocity remain constant, an increase in the lift coefficient ensues, which accounts for the floating effect. Ground effect also alters thrust versus velocity, where reduced induced drag requires less thrust in order to maintain the same velocity. lower wing aircraft are more affected by ground effect than high wing aircraft due to the change in upwash, downwash, and wingtip vortices. There may be errors in the airspeed system while in ground effect due to changes in the local pressure at the static source. What all that means is that the airplane would have floated right over the building. It could not have hit the building. And according to what I saw, based on what they showed us happened, that hole is probably maybe 10 feet off the ground. Impossible. Now, I don't know why other people aren't talking about this. I'll attach the article that I just read to you. You'll understand what ground effect is. 180 feet above the ground, that airplane is floating on compressed air. And unless they bleed off airspeed, it's not going to be able to land. What more do you need to know? I ask you, what more do you need to know? And you know what? What amazes me is I'm listening to all these engineers and these architects. They're all lying dirtbags. They're trying to cover up the murder of over 3,000 innocent Americans by our government. That's just in the Twin Towers. I don't know how many got slaughtered in the Pentagon. The proof is right in front of you. It could not have happened the way that they say it happened. Adding to that, they say that a video camera in the parking lot caught the explosion. Didn't catch the airplane, caught the explosion. How the hell is that even remotely possible? It's not. You get it? Problem is, who are you going to go to? There's no one to go to. Believe it, no one.